Hey, it's Wes. Today, as you saw in a previous short video, we're going to be taking a look at the Zhiyun 5-ray F100, a 100-watt light bar that you can hold in the palm of your hand. Wait, is that 100 watts? We'll find out. Starting with the build quality. So, number one, we have a very thick, tough feeling design here. Now, what we have on here are the barn doors. They come off like so. And so this is the product itself. As you can see, unlike a lot of light bars, we have fans in the back. They're not running right now, but we'll get them running. You have a pixel design, which means that the LEDs are individually controlled. And you have a screen on the back here under some very rigid plastic, like this is very thick plastic. You have kind of a dicey little control wheel, feels a bit chintzy, but overall, there's a little bit of twist. However, this is a pretty rigid product. I think it could take some thumps and bumps. The diffusion plastic on the front seems pretty solid as well. We also have a rubberized port cover, even though this is clearly not in any way water resistant because I can see circuit boards all the way through here. I'm gonna give that an 8.5 out of 10 for build quality. Feature set. This is, as I said before, a pixel light, so this can do individual effects all along the length of it, so everything can move around and change at will. There are lots of different effects that you can summon on this, some more useful than others. Let's roll through those a little bit here. Also, if you get the larger pack, you can get the barn doors, which I found more useful than expected because they are reflective, and so they can increase the amount of light being focused down on a particular spot. Now, unlike other light bars, just generally speaking, this is a more focused light, and it's also supposed to go up to 100 watts, so that should give you a tremendous amount of power compared to most light bars, even though it's half the size. Such as this light bar here, the Pavo tube. We've got 4 feet here. It's only about 30 watts. Mind you, that bar is currently at 25% output. In order to facilitate that kind of output, we have 6 fans on the back. And yeah, they do make some noise once they ramp up, and we will get to that very soon. This advertises up to 100 watts of power output, but what we're missing here is Bluetooth connectivity. Most of these lights can be controlled by an app now. Even some really tiny lights can be controlled by an app now. We don't have any DMX or networking control here. This is very much a device in your hand sort of deal. Now, the issue that we have here, we're going to touch on in the next section. So overall for features, I'm going to give that a 7 out of 10. On the face of it, it appears to be very well featured. You have tons of effects, HSI, CCT, just all over the place here. You can power it via USB-C, which takes full 20-volt power delivery in, as well as the included 120-watt AC adapter. It's actually a really nice feeling AC adapter too, nice and solid. Usability. This is where things become more difficult. In my initial testing of this, I just took it outside and wanted to light up some slow-mo shots of blowing bubbles with my son. And I thought, hey, let's do it in blue, that'll look great. When I switched it to blue, it didn't seem as bright as I thought it should be. I always test this anyway, but once I came to the power output testing, that's where things got messy. So we're going to compare this to our recent light, the GVM45R. It's a big old light bar with 47 watts of output. And at every light range and frequency, it is always 47 watts when you have it set to maximum. Blue, red, green, white, yellow, cool, hot, whatever. It's 47 watts, which is almost frustrating because you feel like you can push farther. This light is the opposite of that. So to get to 100 watts, you gotta go into boost mode, but where is it? Do you see it? Well, there is some black on black here indicating that if you press this button, it's boost mode, but I can't activate this button until I go back to the dim mode, which is the CCT mode. So now I'm in that, and then I can press the boost mode, which automatically switches it to 4000K, and she ramps up right now. Now we're at 96 watts, not quite 100. But this is our maximum output. At 4000K, 100%, we are at almost 100 watts of output. And so we have a 120 watt power supply that will allow this to both charge and go at full power, because this will charge at 20 to 30 watts, both either over USB-C or with the power adapter. But if I take this boost mode, I click this button here to move myself to 5600K, now my power output, it has tumbled to 54 watts. So just over half power just by going to daylight color balance, the most common color balance. If I go to HSI mode in blue, we're still at 100% output, but we can't boost this. How do I boost this? How do I make this brighter? Guess how much power is going to these LEDs right now. I'll give you 3 seconds. 9 watts. This advertised 100 watt light in blue is 9 watts. For perspective, this teeny tiny little light panel from GVM on blue is 7 watts. And it actually appears brighter because it's compressed into a smaller space. 7 watts, 9 watts. This is enormously frustrating to me. If we go over to the effects mode again and switch ourselves to the rainbow and then crank it up to 100%, as you can see, this still isn't very bright. We're still only looking at about 16 watts of usage here. And let's go back to this control wheel. If we want to change to HSI mode, we press the bottom here, which you can see, HSI, and then to step between the settings, we press HSI again, and then we scroll. If we want to go to dim mode, which is CCT mode, press CCT. If we want to step between the modes, we press CCT again. Effects mode, we press effects. If we want to change, again, there's no dedicated stepping button, but you use whichever button you got to where you're going to as the stepping button, which is confusing in and of itself. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is if you want to change, let's go to HSI mode, press it again to change my H. If I want to change this rapidly, I have to turn this wheel so many times, and the odds of me accidentally pressing one corner of this wheel during that rotation is very high. And we don't have Bluetooth app control, so we can't just forego this like we can with a lot of lights that have kind of annoying control schemes. If we go back to CCT mode and we test the limitations of it, we can go to 6200K on the top side. Let's switch this to boost mode. Since I've gone to boost, now I'm back to 4000K because that's what it defaults to. And then I can adjust this back up to 6200, which isn't as bright anymore. And then if I cycle it down, you'll see it gets brighter, and then it gets dimmer again. 2700 to 6200. It's not the widest range anymore. A lot of newer lights go further than that. If we look at these power curves here from 0 up to 100%, and I just threw in the GVM BD45R because it really fits right in here. At 5600K in normal mode, it's the exact same power output, 47 watts. If you put it in boost mode, 5600K can get you up to 54 watts, and then 4000K will get you to 96 watts of power output. But here down at the bottom on blue, not a lot of power coming out of this. So for usability, I am sorry, but I gotta give this a 4 out of 10. This is very frustrating. Let's say that you have something set up and you just want to change the color of your light. Your exposure is completely blown. There we go. Here come the fans. So when you're in boost mode at 100%, the fans will turn on and then they will slowly ramp up. Thankfully, they're not always on, like some cheaper products. They are temperature based. The front of this, at 47 watts usage, gets up to 50 degrees, whereas the GVM light, which has no fans, tops out at about 47 degrees on the front. I was expecting this one to stay cooler since it has so much open air and all those fans, but it does get pretty toasty to the hand. Now when we started this video, this light was at 100% battery. We haven't used it much. We're already showing half battery on the display here. When you're in boost mode, it really drags the battery voltage down, and it will fail to stay on for about a half hour before it would in regular mode. So if it dies in boost mode and then you turn it back on, you still have another half an hour of battery life in regular mode. Let's move on to our value here. I was afraid that this light was going to cost the same or more than a lot of these bigger light bars that have approximately the same light output for many applications. But the bar on its own comes in at $250, or you can get the creator's kit that has a lot of stuff. Case, a grid softbox, and we have the barn doors. And I've got to say, although this case is bigger than I would like it to be, it is very nice. Look at this thing. Oh yeah. Not sure that foam will last a very long time, but the case itself is pretty slick. So you get a nice case, you get a nice light that in certain modes can get super bright. For $250 or $300 for the whole kit. Whereas, let's say with this GVM light, we're looking at $480, or the Pavo tube, which also has like pixel control, just like the GVM does. In that case, we're looking at $580. Yeah, this is a perfectly fine price. Just the only issue is that in all the marketing material, it's just 100-watt light, and it's deceptive, guys. You can't just go around saying stuff like that. But the value is perfectly fine. This is brighter than most things of its size, so I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10. There are some other lights of its size, tube lights, that will give you more power with the HSI modes, but there isn't anything that's going to give you more power with the white mode, especially at 4000K. I hope you like 4000K. All right, now our fans are completely ramped up to the max. You got to measure the sound at 3 feet. We are at 43 decibels. So that is a 27.5 out of 40, or a 69%. I don't know if this can get a firmware update or something that can boost that power, but it seems unlikely. If anything changes on that, I'll update you in the future. But until next time, stay lit, stay warm, and go take some photos.